We are the technology that we've been waiting for.
Welcome to Unraveling Midlife. I'm your host, Sarah Spence. Thanks for joining me as I explore my own astrological midlife by speaking with all sorts of inspiring people about their life and work, and having a chat about what happened in their astrological midlife that helped them get to where they are today. Astrological midlife relates to Western astrology transits that run from your mid-30s to your mid-40s for every human. Each of the four main midlife transits have an overall theme, though details vary by generation and by individual, discussed in episode 9. For me, I'm right in the middle of these four main midlife transits, and I'm learning lots along the way, especially from my guests on the show. If you're new to the show, welcome. And even if you're not, welcome back. You can follow me on social media as Sarah Marlowe Spence, and you're welcome to subscribe to this podcast if you haven't already. So the interviews can go for a while, and at the end, there's a special bonus of some of my original music. There's a link to my website in the show notes where you can find details of upcoming events, which often include kirtan, joyful chanting, dream workshops, and perhaps even a gig of another sort that's singing but not kirtan. We might even hear one of the tracks that has been in other episodes on the show. There's an extra special workshop coming up. It's a shamanic dream journey day workshop. Of course, there'll be some sort of singing as well in there, and it's coming up in mid-August in collaboration with Georgia Maestri of Willow Therapeutic. But for today, my guest today is many things. A creative somatic practitioner, a tarot facilitator, a vision keeper, a classical tantra practitioner, and I can highly recommend this, a hair brushing facilitator. I've known Anneliese Kuegler since I returned to Aotearoa, New Zealand in my 20s after my big OE, and that's when many Antipodeans live abroad for their overseas experience. Ever since I met her, I've observed Anneliese following her many varied creative urges and following through to share them with the world. She is shockingly funny, straight up, and really entertaining to listen to. Here she is. Anneliese, welcome to Unraveling Midlife.
Cool, let's unravel it.
Yeah, let's unravel it, for sure. Tell us about you.
Me, little old me. I like who I am. I'm an interesting person. I think. I would generally say that I'm quite an interesting person. I interest myself, which is great, might be why I'm still single, fellas. Yeah, I'm an interesting person. I grew up in Aotearoa, and I'm 100% convinced I incarnated here for a purpose, for everything that Aotearoa offers. So I've got a rich, beautiful, rich history and relationship with this land. I grew up on a farm in South Auckland, Tamaki Makaurau, and that was a beautiful introduction to mud, bush, water, clean air, and cultural diversity, and not just cultural diversity, but social cultural diversity. And then I came to the city to go to school, and I went to a private girls' school, and boy, was it a culture shock. It's like, wow, this is so interesting, and this kind of relating through constructs that I didn't quite understand, because what I understood the world to be was you just, you take your shoes off and you hoon and you have a good time, and you help each other out. So that relationship with nature has sort of nourished me and supported me in everything that I've done. And I started my career as an artist because that's what they sort of did with neurodiverse people when we were young, is, well, we don't understand them, so we'll just call them artists. Which was fine, you know, like that's great. And being an artist is great because we get to be creative, and we get to explore different mediums of creativity. And I think ultimately I am a creative being. I mean, ultimately we all are creative beings, right? But that gave me that capacity to play with that. And also, so my final year at university was I was kind of interested in was it possible to create objectively? So was it possible to be a conduit for creativity, pure creativity, rather than subject creativity? Which was my tutors hated. They were like, we don't understand what you're talking about. And, you know, I desperately wanted them to understand. And then, you know, retrospectively, I look back and go, oh, wow, my art tutors didn't understand me. Tick. That's a kind of a win for art school. That's a win, you know, that's a win. But I quickly put the art world down because it was too much of this construct of how to be in relationship to people, how to be too many rules, right? And then I became a mum because that kind of gave me license to check out a little bit, and check into, you're right, seriously, you know, check out of the world a little bit, and then check into love, check more into love and a grounded relationship that was based in sort of truth and nature. And at that time, I was so fortunate. I met a wonderful woman called Juliet Fort, who is a yoga teacher. And I used to go to her yoga classes for sanity. And she said to me, do you want to teach? And I said, yes, please. And that was the start of my yoga teaching career. And that was 20 years ago. And I taught under her as a little minion for many, many years. And then I went and did my training, And what yoga gave me was the capacity to articulate the somatic experience. So as a child, I was always dancing, jumping, climbing, flipping, stunts, basically, riding my bike, riding my horse in my body. And as a communicator, you know, an artist and a communicator, that's sort of why they channeled me off that way, because I could talk a lot and acting as well. But then to have that somatic experience, yoga teaching was perfect because they married these two things together. And I could talk about the internal somatic experience. And that's been the foundation for all of my work. That's been the foundation for how I experience the world, how I understand truth. It's interesting because the body is almost metaphorical to everything that I learn spiritually, or is it the other way around? I'm not sure. You know, what's the metaphor for what, or if they're actually all the same things happening, just in different compartmentalized realities that we do with our brain. So yeah, I would say that I'm a creative somatic practitioner, I guess. One of my favorite things to do is I do a project called Moving the Maunga, which is I take a group of people up the mountains of Tamaki, of Auckland, and we go up there and we resource our bodies with gestures from the mountain, and then we distill them down into an offering that we give back to the maunga to say, we see you. So that's that's one little thing that I love and do and love. I dance all the time. I guide people through journeys into their bodies, into their health. I do so many things. Because I'm constantly in that space of creativity, constantly receiving. And I actually had a crash last week where I was like, it's too much to hold, it's too much. There's so much mercurial energy coming, that fast, creative, And I was just like, whoa, could barely keep up with myself. And I think that's part of why I teach these kind of cleansing programs and sort of sadhana practices, things that clear our channel, is because I believe that for myself personally and for the people that I work with, is we're creating capacity now to bring in as much creativity and as much light to transcend the shit that we're in. And fundamentally, I believe that I have come here with a purpose. And that purpose isn't to clear karma. I believe I chose a bloodline to come in to help clear. But I've got a purpose over and beyond my own soul's need. And I see that quite a lot in my friends. And so with all of this magnificence and interesting being that I am, long story short, Jesus, peace be upon him, I even asked myself that question. I'm like, what am I doing? Who am I? And what am I doing here? And do you know, the answer dropped like a liquid gold into my brain and said, you are a vision keeper of the future. And I went, okay, I can live with that. And just last little bit of this intro, I was in Austin, Texas, and this does relate to my midlife, so we'll get to there, but I was talking to this guy and I was telling him that exact story, and this cowboy walks past and he goes, ha, I bet you that doesn't pay much. To which I absolutely peeled in laughter because no, it doesn't really pay very much. But there we are. You know, it's interesting though, because in that respect, it in the past it hasn't paid much just because we don't value those types of things. But I think the value system on the planets is starting to shift, and these more subtle realms are starting to really be desperately needed and desperately appreciated, desperately needed and appreciated and sought after more. So there's a new skill set coming in, and I've always said that I've just been waiting for the language of what I do to evolve in society, a cultural vocabulary that can and it's coming, a common language. I can see it now. You know, people have these words that I've been waiting for them to have, so I can say that word to them and them know what I mean. You know, somatic, for example, you know, somatics is the or introspection, the ability to observe the body from the inside. You know, I can say that in a sentence without everyone going, huh? Occasionally someone will go, oh, what does that mean? And you go, oh, it's blah, blah, blah. And they go, oh, yeah, sweet. And part of what I educate people to as well is bringing them up to date on this vocabulary. It's like using terminology like holding space. What does that mean? It means this, you know, creating the container, taking the journey, you know, all of the words. Anyway, in a nutshell, that's me, Sarah, and it's so nice to be here because I've listened to your podcast since the beginning.
Oh, yay. And so as a vision keeper of the future, I was thinking about what I know that your offerings are, and I know that it's such a broad subject, as you've kind of told us, but some of the more kind of concrete things that you've been doing recently, and I love how you end up getting creative and then doing something different. So I know that you do like online cleanses with groups a couple times a year. Correct me if I'm wrong, there might be a little bit more, and that you've taught yoga for years, probably since you had to explain to people what yoga was, which isn't an issue anymore, and then recently you've really got into the tarot, and you're taking people through tarot journeys as well, like with that online medium, and probably in person as well. Is that a snapshot of kind of what you're currently offering?
Yeah, so I think lockdown happened, right? And I had this moment where nature and I just had a massive giggle, because a piece dropped in my mind, and it was, you know, I've been trying to fit into this society. You know, I've been trying to work out how to fit myself into that. And I was hanging out with nature one time, just leaning back, and it occurred to me that it wasn't that I didn't fit in there, it's that it didn't fit in me, right? And me and nature are the same thing. There's a little tiny speck of me that isn't nature, but the rest of me is all nature. And I laughed because I was like, oh, cool. I don't have to try and fit in there anymore. And that's when I started to really syncopate. Is that the word? Syncopate my work. Is that the word?
I don't know. Keep going on the sentence, okay. And then I can tell
you. Yeah, syncopate my work with the greater rhythms of nature. Does that sound right? Yep, cool. Notorious for making up words as well. So
I'm pretty sure that's a word.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a word. I just don't know if it's the right context. I love learning, man. I'm just like, teach me something that I'm interested in, and I'll light up. But yeah, so I was like, how do I syncopate my life? Because also I'm neurodiverse, so holding myself in alignment to something that is outside of myself, like my work, is really hard, has been almost impossible. So what I've started doing, and since 2021, is anchoring my work into, as I said, the tides and times of nature. So the cleanse programs that I do, the October cleanse and the April cleanse, they're around that transitional spring and autumn. So it sets me up. I'm like, okay, cool. That is anchored into my life. I do that every year. And I've been doing it before 2021, but that was when I started offering that to the world, because I could really see the value in such a strong marker, moving into what I consider like the sort of the more the yin period. So I look at summer as actually a yin period, and winter as a yin period, and those transitional periods is quite a yang period. It's kind of, there's more room for action, whereas we want to go out in summer and hang out, and we want to go inside in winter. So it's kind of yin-y. And then this year was my goal. My goal was to work out a year structure with my business that I could rest into. So work out, actually, no, I started last year, but this was the year that I really go, okay, does it work there? And so, sorry, I have a practice called, a course called Reentry, and that's about coming into the body after trauma. And that landed in August. So it kind of was this beautiful segue. Matariki came, and then I picked up into Reentry, about reoccupying the body after, age, trauma, accident, lifestyle. Like, how do we actually get back in? And that landed so beautifully in that period, sort of after Matariki, because I watched this program come in. I was like, oh, that's amazing. And then so that'll always sit there. That's what I'm looking for in my life, is this balance where the thing that I teach, the thing that I hold, the container I create in the journey I'm holding, it corresponds to the natural cycles. And so it kind of just made sense that I invited people into my tarot experience. So I've been reading tarot since, freaking 21 or something. And I do this lunar trip. And I was like, why don't I bring people in on that trip? Because it's so cool and exciting to, because tarot is really, as you know, Sarah, tarot is really aligned with astrology. Now, I'm not an astrologer. I'm interested. But I can't be all things to all people. but that said, as soon as we start working with the tarot, we start to understand that they're astrologically aligned. And then it just happens that it's like, oh yeah, I understand, like that this is happening in the stars, and this is what I'm seeing in the cards, and it's all kind of relating. And it's the, what do you call that? It's the jigsaw of the universe that somehow I feel like, for me, I'm here to play and put together, and I say yes to everything, and if I say yes to something, it fits in the cosmic jigsaw. And so so I've been leading people through that journey, new moon to full moon to new moon with the quarters, working with people's tides of power. So your tide of power is where you were born on that moon phase, which is really interesting because as a bit of an alchemist, I would always try and make potions on the full moon, and it never would work. But then come the last quarter, I was charged and and then I did some work with Franchelle, who you've worked with, Sarah, and she's like told us our tide of power, and sure enough, I'm the last quarter into the darkness of the moon kind of lady, which is quite shamanic. I do the tarot, and I do the re-entry, and I do the cleansers. And the other thing that's just starting to ignite now, which is like, I was thinking about it today as I was gardening. I try to get into my garden before I start work, just to ground myself, because there's a lot of computer time. Is this kind of third eye work that I've always loved, which is the sort of guided meditations. And last year, was it last year or the year before, maybe 2 years ago, I felt this calling, and I was like, oh, what's that? And it was a calling to another woman who was in Australia. And I said, here, you and I should meet online and meditate, because when I meditate, I can see you. And she's like, yeah. So we got together, we started meditating together and anchoring in from our whenau, the land, and we could connect our land through our consciousness and see each other in sort of this energetic form. And so I was called to create this thing called the Emerald Temple. And it was a space out of space, an imaginal space. So we got together for 2 years, me and this woman and another group of women, and we got together and we would sit on a Zoom call and we would dream. We would dream it together, and we would dream in this place called the Emerald Temple. And it's so interesting now that the language of the metaverse is hitting. Like I just listened to a podcast on the metaverse, and I was like, isn't that interesting? It's like, that's what I'm talking about. The language is catching up. So when I say to people, I'm a vision keeper of the future, let's sit down together and dream what we want to see, the language of culture is almost there, where the people can go, oh yeah, okay, yes, I definitely should be doing that. I definitely am in on that trip. So that's the most exciting thing at the moment.
Can you say a little bit more about the metaverse? Because I know in IT land, metaverse is Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram, that kind of thing. I'm taking that your definition of the metaverse is not that.
Well, okay, so I was talking about that metaverse. But what they are doing is they're taking us out of this, right? The idea is to take you out of this and into a universe that's created by them.
Out of nature and into all those sci-fi novels that I read when I was a teenager. Yeah.
Which is kind of dystopian, right? There's this kind of social glorified dysfunction that we're doing that's heading us towards this really fucking dysfunctional place. The podcast I was listening to was called The Body as the Metaverse, and it was from the Emerald. Have you heard of the Emerald podcast? Oh my God, honestly. It's all right to
highly recommended then.
Yeah, highly recommend that one, honestly. Yes. And what he was saying is, like, actually we've always had access to a metaverse through our rituals and ancient cultural stories and sort of imaginal spaces of narratives and stuff, but they were always accessed through the body. And what the other thing that he was saying was, like, this metaverse that these people want to create doesn't do anything for the body or anything for the consciousness at all. It's just like an addiction, a low grade addiction.
Totally mind-based.
But the mind interests me, right? Because when I go inside my body and my third eye, I'm looking with consciousness inside, interoception inside my body, I see shit. I see colors and I see lights, and I can see the synapses firing in my brain. I can see where thoughts are residing. Wow. So it's kind of real, this imaginal space, this capacity to see almost psychedelic experience is real. And what happens if we dream together? Because that Emerald City that we created that. It exists. And they say that no information in the universe is ever lost. So that's why things are eternal. So that Emerald City is information that was created and will never be lost. It's a thing. So,
is that where the Wizard of Oz came from?
The Emerald. Well, it was
maybe.
No. I mean, I just called it the Emerald Temple, and sometimes I call it the Emerald City because I get confused and go.
But maybe someone else could see that when they were writing. That's the thing. It's like Elizabeth Gilbert's book Big Magic, where she talks about the thoughts and the creative ideas coming out, and then she didn't take one. Then she met someone who wrote a novel that was pretty much so on par with what she'd had the idea and hadn't followed through. And it's like, I'm running a dream course that is finishing up before this podcast comes out, and I put it out there to the universe, and then I noticed 3 other people in my network were also running online courses on a Monday night, and I was like, I guess we all got the memo. I mean, but the Emerald City, maybe, I mean, there's lots of emeralds. There's the Hermes Trismegistus, there's the emerald relationship there as well. I mean, there's a whole heap of stuff that's meant to be quite a powerful stone, isn't it?
Yeah. And the idea of creating an Emerald Temple was to create a space where we could go and create things. So my next journey, the first journey was to create a healing orb. And I was like, what? What's a healing orb? Okay, we'll see. And it was just like, that was what landed. Like, go to the Emerald Temple, take some people there and create a healing orb. Well, I tell you, it took us a year to do it. It was one of the most magical things. So after we do the journey, we come back and we sit in circle and we share. And everyone did have the most mind-blowing experience. Like, I could feel this, like my heart was going like this, and then there was this like blue color or whatever, like everyone had a really far out experience. And so next time I'm being called, the next journey, I'm being called to dragon. So I don't even know what that means, but I do think that what you were saying about the sort of collective consciousness, without a doubt, is so real, and for a lot of time in my life, I got to the point, like, I would receive ideas all the time, and there'd be $1 million ideas. Every day there'd be $1 million idea that with my brain capacity as it was, I couldn't do anything with that. But then subsequently someone else would come up with that same idea, and I'm like, cool, that's cool, it's happening. And I believe that sometimes I literally am a receptacle for information landing, getting just down to here on Earth. It's there.
I do, and I know where your Mercury is in your birth chart, and it's in its double strength, and it doesn't surprise me whatsoever that you've got this vision keeper of the future, because Mercury can really send those bolts of intuition and like lightning, as well as kind of having the logic. And you've asked me about Mercury before, and that's, I can hear it in what you're telling me, that you can sense and kind of you get those downloads, and it's I go, oh yeah, that's your Mercury.
Yeah, well, that's why I was asking, because the tarot was going Mercury, 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 and I could feel it. Finally I had this kind of language around a somatic experience of, like we said, like mercurial, download. Those are 2 words that are like, current words that we can use. Most people kind of get what we're talking about. But I feel like a lot of the time I don't need to action a lot of the shit that I come up with, because just embodying it anchors it into Earth, and then it's in the Earth space. So that's why, Monday's a great night to do something. Yeah, Monday's a great, yes, I feel it. We all feel it,
What I found fascinating talking with some of the people I've been doing the dream work with is, and I've met more than 2 of them where they dream and then someone else dreams, and they're talking to each other in the dreams, and then they talk about it in real life, and they both recall having had the discussion in the dreams. And that reminds me of your metaverse. And I go, wow, that's so cool. Wouldn't it be cool to do that? And oh, well, I'm here to do what the universe is, what I'm here to do for the universe, and that sense of purpose that I have too. But, grass is always greener, hey, things sound cool. But yeah, perfectly here as me.
Yeah.
So with the Emerald Temple work that you were doing, was that in 2020, 21? Was that time?
No. Well, yeah. 20. Yeah, that's when it landed.
I noted that that's actually when your astrological midlife ended.
Oh, thank God, the Lord, and praise Jesus.
Oh, yeah, before all those lockdowns. Lucky you.
I had the best lockdowns, honestly. Me and nature high five. Me and my kid were like, tra-la-la. It was awesome. I just loved it. I was like, yeah, this is how it should be.
I actually do have fond memories of walking to the beach, all those beach walks and all those sunrises, and going, oh, I wish I hadn't moved across the way. I could have still had those in the next lockdown. But yeah, you had quite a long midlife. You had like a bunch of a few years, and then a bit of a break, and then the rest of it. I mean, midlife, it's different for everyone. And then I noticed that it finished like just as we locked down in 2020.
That's really interesting.
Wow, what would that have? So it sounds like, from what you've told me, that in that time, and that what stemmed from the lockdowns was that you kind of found that more of your purpose and what you're meant to be doing from that time.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, doing your purpose is really scary shit. like doing what you're actually here to do, it takes a lot of courage. And I find that every day I'm scared out of my mind. Like, even talking to you about some of the stuff that we're talking about, it's like, for a long time, to even mention that, I'd had to be so brave to actually say what I believe about the world and to the world. But yeah, I mean, for me, the biggest thing is that I dropped into deeper cycles. Lockdown gave me that capacity to just let go of what should be and really listen to how it could be. And I'm still doing that. Like, I'm trying to stop. I'm trying to slow down. I'm still trying to slow down. Sarah knows me. I've got white hair. I've had white hair. My hair started turning white when I was 21.
I thought it was blonde.
Yeah, no, that's just pretend. And that's because I've had this nervous system that's been constantly being bombarded and without regulation in this world. That is do. Faster, more. And I'm really trying to just, how can I do heaps, like all the shit that I want to do, but how can I do it in a way that's really soothing and slowing down? Yeah.
I can relate to that lesson. Yeah.
I think we all can in this day and age. But I tell you what, it doesn't surprise me that I had a long midlife, because far out, man, life has been ginormous. I've had such a ginormous life. Starting off as a mum at, I'd just become an adult, and then I'm a mum, and then it's like, okay, just life's huge. It's really big. It's been really big, and I feel like I'm finally in a place where I've got a bit of power back, a little bit of power and a little bit of clarity and confidence in the world's caught up. But yeah, that midlife was quite intense.
I did note when I was looking at your chart that you've just been through a time in the last year or so where these are really beautiful kind of transit. Where Jupiter comes back to where Jupiter was when you were born, and it's all about like optimism and benevolence and big happy.
Yeah, Jupiter, thank you.
I'm hanging out. Other things
Yeah.
along the way, of course, because there's always the planets have this dance with us. And I mean, I do like to think of in in human design, of which is another one that I had an episode about, another modality. And I remember saying to Christine Spicer, what about the transits and the planets and the impact on us? And we talked about midlife according to human design as well. And she said, well, if you follow your strategy and authority, then the planets don't have as much impact on you. And I'm like, okay, there's my homework. Take out that experiment, and how can I live with the prompts that come instead of overriding them with my mind, which many of us do. But if you want to know more about human design and strategy and authority, listeners, that's episode
Christine Spicer. Yeah, we did
8, I believe.
She was also in the episode that we did together.
Yes, the eclipse special, the panel.
Yeah, she's a lovely woman. Yeah, no, that's a really interesting point, because then you start becoming the creator, right? So I teach a lot from classical tantra and ahankara, which is the constructed self. Ahankara is the name for the constructed self, and I was teaching about the constructed self before I even found the word ahankara, but now I have a name for it, which I love for classical tantra. It's sort of given me this.
How do you spell that?
It's Ahunkara, ahankara.
And it gave you a framework.
Yeah, so ahankara is what I call the constructed self, and I believe our constructed self is it's astrology, it's karma, it's social, and it's genetic. So it's our personality, right, which is our interface with the world, which is very handy, because otherwise we'd just be like blah blah blah, lying on the ground going, how the fuck do I do this? And I like my personality. I'm quite enamored of it. But that said, it comes with all of its pitfalls, right? It can be strong, and it has a life force, and it does anchor into our physical body. And ultimately, we are here to experience a liberation, I say transcendence, but a liberation within the physical being, right? So I think there is a point where we claim authority beyond our ego. We claim the will and that's where magic starts happening. When we go, okay, I am a creative being, and I focus my intention on my desire, and look what happens. Shit starts to get magical. And I really believe that we're kept purposefully in our constructed being. We play to our ego, even going to school, that the system of us and them and better than and success and all of these things that we measure ourselves with are very egoic based. And I think that's because as soon as we realize our power, as soon as we stand into our authority, our sovereignty with our will, we're just gonna fucking blow this shit to pieces. And I mean that in a good way. It's like, we've been held to ransom as human beings by magicians, dark magicians with their glamour for a very long time. And it's like, it's time at the detriment of everything. And it's really time to take that power back. And that taking that power back is claiming that sovereignty and that identity of being a powerful creative being. And I'm kind of hoping that that's what, the Emerald Temple will do, the cleansers will do, is just create space within people to disidentify with the mind, disidentify with the ego, activate the will, start visualizing potential and start creating that potential.
I get so excited.
Right?
It really does excite me. Yeah. And I really love what you said, well, not exactly what's happening, but how you described the dark magicians.
Yeah, motherfuckers. Honestly, when COVID hit and I was watching that friend argue with that friend about that bullshit, I was just like, you know what, I'm off the stage. Like, you guys, I'm just going to let you guys know that you're on the stage and you're performing your roles beautifully. I'll be over here writing another script about another world where this shit is a faint memory. And I use that sort of metaphor a lot, and a lot of people were like, oh, hang on, you're kind of right. I might actually jump off the stage with you. And you know, and it was great because, you know, like the dark magicians, we all know who they are. Like, you know, we know, well, I don't know if we know exactly who they are, but we know that what is occurring on the planet right now is not the great plan. This is some petulant child in the sandbox wanting all the fucking toys, and, you know, and shitting in the sandbox for everybody else. It's like, nah, you know what? Your time's done, because you're just, you know, like, your capacity to create is exactly the same as my capacity to create, and your capacity to create.
So I remember it must have been 5, 6, maybe 7 years ago. And we mentioned Franchelle before, and I've got her booked in for a later podcast. And I remember being on retreat, and there was talk of, the light and the dark, and that on the spirit level, the dark has already been overcome with the light. But it all needed to play out. And so when all this stuff started in the last couple of years, I was like, maybe this is the playing out. And all Franchelle seemed to say was, it's the birth pangs of a new race. I think that was her husband Tony who said that, described it as such. So it's exciting times. We're on the cusp.
It is really exciting, but it's also like really hard for a lot of people. Totally. And my heart goes out to so many people who, like, you know, just don't even know. You know, they just don't even know. They're, you know, just locked down in this, like I said before, you know, we've created a society that glorifies dysfunction, and we've just got people so locked up in dysfunction. And these, you know, I mean, just any bad shit, like someone who beeps at you, gives you the fingers, it's just like, that person is locked in their dysfunction. That's why I love also working with the body as well, is because, you know, I believe that we can unlock dysfunction in the physical form, which, you know, the mind and the body, you know, they're almost the same thing. It just breaks my heart, because I want everyone, you know, I want everyone on this ride. It's like, you know, as I think it was Muhammad Ali said, as long as one of us is not free, none of us are free. And then Khalil Gibran said, no one is higher than the highest or lower than the lowest. You know, so we are all that serial killer. We are that crackhead. We are that crying mum. We are that dark magician, you know, like.
I'm pretty sure I've given someone the fingers, but usually it was when I was on my bicycle in Auckland in the traffic. Someone cut me off. I mean, we all have that. And I mean, I guess what I'm thinking while you're talking is, what do we say to the people who might be listening to the podcast and they're feeling in there, you know, when you're completely strung out, you're struggling, you know, there's another way. What's the advice?
Oh man, so when my son came to me the first time with depression, he's smart though, you know, I mean, I imagine that your listeners are probably all quite smart. I said to him, Google depression, Google solving depression, make a list, try them out, see what works, and then make your map. And whatever works and gets you out of it will be your map for next time, because you will be here again. And he did. And I remember one time I came to him and I was like, oh, Jesus, it's so hard. And he goes, where's your map, Mum? And I was like, touche, hombre, touche. But I guess, you know, like, it's water. It's drinking water. It's moving your body. It's going to nature. It's asking for a hug. It's stalking fear, getting uncomfortable and realizing that that's your place of growth. You know, there's kind of layers to it, like take care of the fundamental foundations, like look after your physical body, ditch coffee, she says. If I have coffee, I'm a mess. You know, take out the shit that you know isn't good for you. Start introducing the things that are good for you, and then start looking at the sort of more insidious. Take that personal journey to know who you are. You know, like I've isolated I don't have a friendship network around me. I don't get enough touch. And I was like, oh man, you know, I'm so sad. I want my kid. And I said to my kid, oh, cuddle me. And she's like, get a boyfriend, mum. And I'm like, oh, okay, I got a boyfriend. And I was like, what is that? What is this? What is this? This is a human need for touch. So I'm like, okay. And I started creating hair brushing circles so I could get safe touch and share safe touch with other people. It's like, you know, start talking to people who know more than you do about shit. You know, that's like, I've got a teacher and a mentor at the moment. She knows more than I do. Fantastic. I'm like, oh, you know, it's like, I like not being the smartest person in the room because I can learn stuff. So, you know, humble yourself, go learn some shit from some cool people. Listen to Russell Brand, he's hilarious.
Topical, but hilarious.
Very, very topical and hilarious. Yeah, that's what I'd say.
And make a map, because you don't have to do it all at the same time. But I think those first few fundamentals that you said is, yeah, drink water, eat well, get outside. And I think...
And have a hug.
And have a hug.
Yeah.
Have a hug. Yeah, because if you reach out to people, go, hey, I'd really appreciate a hug or some hugs. Mm-hmm. Generally, people are all too happy to comply, right?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and you never know when you're actually meeting needing another person, right?
Yeah, yeah. So, though I know that when you're in like a dark spot, reaching out is like probably the hardest thing, and it's only easy to reach out once you kind of hit rock bottom and coming back up.
Yeah.
So I guess you start with getting outside and getting off the couch, because I know that, you know, watching Netflix or whatever is a good form of escapism.
Yeah, it was interesting. like I said last week, I had a bit of a crash with capacity, and did the gardening thing in the morning, and I was listening to something about Robin Williams last few days or something, and I stopped myself and I'm like, why am I consuming this content? And it's like, because this is mirroring where I'm at. So that's always interesting, like just check what your mirrors are. You know, what are you consuming? What are you consuming? Like what are you putting into your body, into your mind, into your being? And is that a reflection of how you're feeling? And, you know, there's no point in judging. I mean, I actually really, I'm not going to say but those dark places, those really dark places that I've been in my psyche have taught me so much.
Great teachers,
you know, like especially now that I've got this sort of bigger vocabulary of somatic visualization, right? You know, because I can get down the bottom. Like last time I was down there, I could feel and see how I had actually physically wound myself up in an energetic cocoon where I couldn't actually, they could hug me, but there was energetically, I wasn't able to receive it. That's what I saw. That's what I knew. That was my truth, right? So when I came out of it, I was like, oh, fuck. I'm so glad that I went to that place, because now I can start working on literally dissolving that cocoon that's around me, because I really need that flow of energy. So, you know, there's gold in the shit. You know, there's gold even in the darkest places. There's light even in the darkest places. But, you know, and good water. Can I just state that? It's like, drink good water. Like, you know, I teach cleansers and people go, what do you mean by good water? Isn't tap water good water? And I'm like, oh man, no, it's terrible. It's like like I could cry when I think about tap water, what we do to water. Oh my God. Anyway, that's a whole nother lovely
So if you have a
podcast.
spring near you, go get some spring water. But not everyone has that luxury.
No, but you can, there's lots of the rainwater. I mean, every time it rains, I stick a bowl outside and, have a guzzle. If you live in the main centres, there's always swappable water, recyclable water things. Always make sure that you try and get like a mineral one. And think about where it comes from. So I get Awa water, which comes from Riverhead. And then there's Ararimu water, which comes from South Auckland. And they both taste different. And they've both got a different energy. And sometimes I crave the different energy. And also when we go traveling, we always have a bottle in the back, and we never fill it up from the tap. We're always, looking, talking. I actually did a water journey in 2014. I took my daughter for a year in a camper van around Te Reo Māori, the North Island of New Zealand.
Wow.
That
was the year off. That was your year off that you didn't have your midlife transits.
Are you kidding me? Thank the Lord. I'm out of here.
Because it went for 9 years, but you had that year off.
Oh my God, that makes so much sense. It felt like it too. It felt like escape, like we escaped, and we just went to springs and rivers, and we sang to oceans, and it was amazing. I can't believe that's hilarious. Yeah.
So when you're talking about the water you can swap in, I just want to clarify that doesn't include supermarket water. It's more going to organic stores that do swaps with spring water containers, right?
Yeah. And it's just worth it, like, I mean, once you know what, you'll never go back ever. And I remember one time, I'll just say this out loud, but I remember one time I was tripping and I was standing looking over Tamaki Makaurau, and like, if you know me, like, I just love everybody. Like that, actually, that's on my headstone. Who am I? On my headstone, and I've got a tattoo. It says, "She loves everybody." And that was a quote from my son. And he said that, and I burst into tears because I was like, if I could live that for the rest of my life. Anyway, I'm standing on this mountain looking over Tamaki, just thinking about all the people and all of the houses and how much I love all of them and how sad I was because I could feel so much pain, and it just dropped in. They're all just thirsty. And I was like, oh my God, it was the revelation. When you go to drink from the tap, right, you go to put it to your mouth, your body knows there's poison in there. Fluoride is poison. It's poison. Your body goes, I don't want that, so I'm going to have juice instead. Juice is really expensive, so now fuck that. I'm going to have fizzy drinks instead. I'm going to have like 99 1.5 litre of green fizzy drink, whatever it is.
Which is also poison.
Which is also poison, right? So you drink that, then your biome in your body starts to switch over into being addicted to sugar, right? And then your whole body is started to be wired for stimulation. So then comes coffee, and then you're like, okay, yeah, but I need something else. Then comes alcohol, which has also got all of the sugary stuff in it. And then do you know how easy it is to just go, oh, crack's awesome because it makes me feel like sugar, but more. And it's like all of these addictions that are absolutely eating us away. And look, we're the privileged few. Like, when did you last see someone who was addicted to crack?
No idea.
No idea, but it's fucking everywhere in this country. And we're just privileged because we don't see it because we live in these beautiful natural places. And anyway, but the progression is, and I was just sitting there just going, and these is everyone, no matter where they're at on that spectrum, is fucking thirsty. And I reckon that if we had good water flowing from our taps, we wouldn't have crackheads. And I mean, that's my theory. And I'm sticking to it.
Maybe we'll get a chance to test that out. You're the vision keeper of the future. Clearly, you have said it.
Yeah. Yeah, if I said it, if I've imagined it, then it's potential, right? It's possible. I just, water, you just, man, honestly. You know, the water that we've got on the planet is the same water that we've had for like, as long as there's been water. It's the same water.
Wow.
Yeah, it's the same water. So it's the water in my tea is billions and billions and billions of years old.
So that means in our blood.
Yeah, in our blood. And then it's also got a memory, right? So this cup of tea, potentially, if we didn't like, you know, when it goes through the, sorry, I'm getting really excited about this, but when it goes through the cleansing process up at the filtering station here, like they absolutely destroy the water, destroy it. They knock it, they kick it, they pull it, they pollute it, and then they give it to us. And so we get this kind of water that's this shape of dysfunction. It's like, you know, a water should look and feel like bliss.
So that's the Japanese guy, Matsuro Emoto, who, I mean, you could do that experiment at home by taking a jar of tap water and a jar of spring water and, I don't know, leaving it there for a while and tasting the difference. I guess you need the microscope to be able to see all the amazing kind of water crystal-like structures like he's got in.
But the more sensitive you get to it, like the more you can feel it, you know, like.
I've filtered my water since I was about 18.
You what?
I've drunk filtered water since I was about 18, but getting the spring water is way better.
Yeah, well, I grew up on a farm, so like when I came to the city, I'd be like, "Oh, your water tastes gross," and that was it, you know. Like I said, it was such a gift growing up where I did, because that was one of the gifts, is that I knew what good water tasted like, and you know, you just it's all got different flavors, and you can feel it when it's mineral rich. You know, you can feel your body just go. I guess the test is get COVID, like, you know, really get your body desperately like on the edge, and then have a drink of mineral water or a tap water, and that will, you know, or food poisoning, get food poisoning and have your two things and go, which one is going to nourish me, and then you'll know. Or just clean your body to a point where it actually, that said, you know, I think it's really important for your listeners to know that, like, you know, I'm not squeaky clean, Sarah?
Well, who is?
Well, I mean, you know, just, yeah, I'm a bit of a badass. Like, I've had a life of, you know, badassness. So I'm not like, you know, I'm not
clearly you drink a bit of coffee from what you alluded to, and you know that's okay. I mean, and we're human and we do our best.
Binge alcoholic, so like I don't drink, and if I do, I drink hard, and if I do, I will smoke all of your cigarettes. And you know, like I'm not that picture perfect unattainable person. I'm just little old me, just like little old you, just on the journey, doing what I can when I can, and
no pedestals here.
No, there's no pedestals, and no one should be on a pedestal. You know, like, again, glorified dysfunction, like what we've, you know, put as what we should be like is just such bullshit. We should just be exactly like we are.
So if someone wanted to, say, come and cleanse with you, or go on a tarot journey or something, how would they find you?
Close your eyes.
Imagine an emerald temple.
Imagine an emerald temple. Go into the temple and call my name.
Oh, and wear red shoes and click them 3 times together and say there's no place like home.
Yes. Or you can just find me you know, around on Instagram or on my website, My Joy Body. But you know,
so your socials, My Joy Body, but you've also got a website, right?
Yeah, My Joy Body. Everything's My Joy Body. MyJoyBody.com. I actually have just been thinking, and I don't know when this will come out, but like if somebody quotes it from this, of doing a free 30-minute process with some of your listeners if they'd like, so they can book that in with me through my Joy Body. So it's just a little 30-minute going into the body, feeling your shit and watching how your shit wants to resolve itself. And that's what we call doing a process. And it's pretty amazing. So quite happy to offer that out to I'll have like 2 30-minute slots on a Monday if you're interested.
Cool. So Monday New Zealand time, and you can get in touch with Anneliese via myjoybody.com.
And I think that's the nicest way, because then, you know, we can eyeball each other and get a vibe, you know.
And that's your kind of like prize for listening to this far into the podcast.
Yeah. Although you're sitting there thinking, oh no, it's almost over. Damn, that was so much fun.
That's all right. You can look up Anneliese on other podcasts. There's at least 2 other episodes that I'm aware of. There might be more.
Yeah.
And maybe
well, thanks, Sarah.
Yeah, thanks so much. We've kind of gone everywhere into emerald temples and oh wow, just great. Thanks so much for joining us on Unraveling Midlife. To unravel, we did unravel a little bit of your midlife, and
we did. We worked out those lovely little aha moments, which is, I love the aha moments. You know, what was I saying before about the cosmic jigsaw puzzle? Aha! There's a piece. Put that in. So
may Mercury continue to give you all sorts of mercurial inspiration.
Oh, without a doubt. It is set in stone, that one.
Today's music is an impromptu piece recorded at the amazing Tauhara Centre in the central North Island of New Zealand. It has a long and rich history when compared with other retreat centres in New Zealand, and many memories and influences for me with the varied retreats that have been life-changing. I chose some Te Reo Māori words to sing. It's in a fairly classical voice style and a cappella. They are Aio, peace, Aroha, love, Koa, joy, and Pono, truth. These words are key in the song Dr. Rangimarie Turuki Rose Pere taught to many of us in her song Aio ki te ao rangi. I've linked a video in the show notes of Fire Rose leading this with hundreds of people. It's really powerful. I also found, while I was finding this and reading the what's written next to the video, that it's really important to sing the words in the correct order. And that goes for her song that she taught so many of us, both here and around the world, in Aio ki te ao rangi. But I managed to sing them in what you're about to hear, slightly out of order, so I'm hoping that she can forgive me from wherever her soul now resides since leaving the physical, and I will be sure to be taking careful note of the word order when I'm singing in future. Unraveling Midlife is brought to you from Aotearoa, New Zealand by www.sarahmarlowspence.com. Theme music is by Sarah Marlow Spence and Sarasvati Marie Willis, and art by Samantha Hepburn.